Welcome to Sisters in Arms. I'm Kerrie and Auclair.
And I'm Renee Gagne, and together we are serving as a Second Amendment resource for the communities in Massachusetts. Today's episode, we're talking to the hosts. Who are they? How did they get here? Kerrie Ann, can you tell us your why?
My why? Wow, gosh, that's a long story, but I'll try to make it very short. My why, so let's see. I got my license to carry in 2015, and then let's go back. So my husband wanted me to get my license to carry because he worked third shift. So he was very adamant about it because he unfortunately heard something on the news that really rocked his cage, rattled his cage a bit, and realized that we need to have something to protect ourselves. And so I said, okay. And I was one of those moms way back in the day where I didn't like my kids playing with toy guns. And now look at me, here I am, right? So that goes into another story. So when I got my license to carry, I didn't get a firearm yet, but I had a situation where my kids were somewhere, and let's just say I realized the importance of education. And from that point on, something rattled my cage, and it made me go forward with trying to learn everything I possibly could about firearms. I got my first firearm. I didn't touch it, I didn't hold it, I didn't carry it for months until I felt comfortable. I went shooting with a friend of mine. I felt a little bit more comfortable, but I still didn't feel quite there yet. And then I started watching Kelly Pigeon from Armed and Feminine, and then I started learning more about how to educate my children with firearms. You know, if you are a responsible gun owner, you should definitely educate everybody in the home. So I kind of went from there. And then you and I went to the range, right? And realized, wow, we're the only women here, right? Mm-hmm. Remember that? When we were there, we were just the only women there. And I think we were lucky because we had a lot of support. We just happened to fall into a range where we went there. Mm-hmm. We had some men there that were like, hey, come on, I'll come to the range, I'll help you out. And you're like, okay. But then we started hearing other stories where people started hearing we were going to the range. When are you going to the range? Mm. What days? Can I come? And so it just started something for us. And then at that point, I'm like, we should start a women's shooting chapter. And I researched and researched and researched and researched for, I don't know, 6 months? Wasn't it 6 months?
At least, yeah.
And then I finally said, let's do this. So we started a women's shooting chapter called Armed Women of America. Back then it was the Well-Armed Woman. And we've been doing this ever since. And then it's just snowballed, you know. Now we're this, now we're that, now we're doing this, now we're doing this.
Right. So that was the first chapter in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Because there's probably now, after
COVID.
The pandemic and some of them shut down, there's about 330 nationwide. Yeah. But Kerrie started the first one in Massachusetts.
Yeah, and we might actually have 2 more up and running, mm-hmm. hopefully. So yeah, it's been exciting. I don't think I realized how important it was going to end up being for us until we had our first meet and greet. And then, you know, let's just go back too, because Armed Women of America is a nonprofit organization. We volunteer our time for this. So once a month we meet for like 2 hours. We do a class component of it. Then we take the ladies onto the range and learn, shoot basically, or go on the range and do what we've taught them to do in mm-hmm. the classroom. So I think that was super important. But when we did the first meet and greet, I mean, I don't know about you, I don't want to say overwhelmed. I don't think that's the word I want to use. I think I was taken back, I guess, because we had 50 women there, 30 women signed up that very night.
And we can only fit 50 in the room.
Yeah.
The room that we were in at the time only held 50.
Right.
So it was maxed out.
Yeah, but the stories that I heard that night, oh, I'm so glad you're doing this. I'm a widow. I just lost my husband. I'm a domestic violence survivor. Oh, I got goosebumps thinking about it. I was held up at gunpoint. You know, I was shot at, and you're like, what? And then you realized okay, this
Yeah, this is way bigger than us.
This is way bigger than
Yeah.
we ever thought.
Yeah.
This is not about us. This is not about the chat. It's
Right.
about what we do as a whole, which is to educate these women to feel comfortable and confident with their firearms, you know, and then to be my own first responder is huge. And then not even a year and a half later, COVID hit. But we didn't stop, right?
No,
We
no.
just didn't
We had
stop.
momentum from the very beginning.
Yeah,
Yep, we did Zooms through the
Right.
beginning of COVID.
right,
Yep.
right.
Yep, we never stopped.
No,
And some members fell off, but as fast as they fell off, there were new people
Right.
right behind.
and I think we did move to another range, and I know that kind of interrupted the membership a little bit because not everybody could travel to Mansfield
From time.
from time.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. We have multiple different age groups that join us every month. But to go back, when we first started, you know, we just went fast and furious. We became firearm instructors, range safety officer, refused to be a victim instructor. Now we're part of the DC project. I'm the state director for Mass, you're for Rhode Island, so it's just trickled. So
Right.
we're educating ourselves constantly and we're not stopping because education is so important. So tell me, what
Well,
is
I
your
want to know.
why?
I want to know what was your family's response? What was Dave, your
Oh,
husband's
gosh.
response?
I don't even think he really
I
knew
mean,
what to-
because this kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like,
it came out of nowhere, but it was one of those things where I don't think he expected me to take off like that because
Right.
I was so adamant. I'm like, nope, you cannot play with that toy gun. Nope, 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 nope. Don't point it at your sister. I was one of those moms.
Right.
And you know what? In the very beginning, I'm kind of glad that I did that. But then I realized as they got older, and that's another episode we're going to be talking about because I can't wait to do something on that, education with children and firearms and stuff. That's huge. It's very, very important to me.
because your kids shoot, right?
And, yep, my kids shoot, but you know,
Your daughter's
again,
amazing.
there was oh my
Amazing.
God, and you know, I think I realized too that what propelled me to go forward was something that could have happened to my kids in a situation, and that really rattled my cage, and I said, nope. I'm gonna educate myself. I'm gonna educate my family and everything else. But to go back to my family and my husband, I think in the beginning, I don't think he knew really what to say, but he's like, okay, so that gun's not mine anymore? Nope, it's mine.
Right, right.
You know, and I think they're all proud of what we do. I ask my kids all the time, are you all right with me doing this? Mom, my daughter last week actually said to me, Mom, you're doing amazing things for women that need you.
That's pretty cool for a young teen to
Yeah,
say.
she's 13.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And she volunteers her time. She helps out where she can at events and fundraisers, and yeah, love it. So yeah, I
So
think
then-
it's an
so-
adjustment still.
Right, right, for sure.
Yeah.
So when did the DC, because we're almost 4 years into the chapter, we'll be celebrating our 4th year anniversary
April.
in May, right?
Yeah,
April,
April.
May.
Yep.
So when did the DC project come in?
Okay, so I started getting our training counselor actually is John Green from GOAL, Gun Owners Action League, and I started getting really involved with GOAL, like learning more about what GOAL did and understanding how important they are to the community, or even to Massachusetts in general. And then I started, I recognized the DC project because somehow there was a link on their site or the website. So I started going on to Zooms. I became a delegate, which is a member basically for the DC project. And at that time, Lakeisha Robbins was the DC state director for Massachusetts.
And Lakeisha is a firearm instructor.
Yep, she's a firearm instructor. She's awesome. She's amazing. And then down the road, fast forward, she had so many awesome other things that she wanted to pursue. And I went to Zoom meetings all the time, and she asked if I wanted to be the state director for Massachusetts. I said, Okay.
But that's your MO, right? Like I feel like you're not out every day saying, what can I get into? Things are just like rolling, right?
Right.
And you're just rolling with it. You're like, okay, let's go. I guess this opportunity
Yeah.
is in my lap, so I'm going to roll with it.
Right. Right. And honestly, I was scared to death because I'm like, I don't know much about this, so I'm going to try it. And you know what? I'll tell you, as soon as I took it over, I think within 15 minutes, Jim Wallace called me, the director for Gun Owners Action League Goal. What do you need? What can I do?
Yeah.
You need help? I'm here. And I just took a breath and I'm like, all right, I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask questions, even though they may sound stupid. But again, there's no such thing as stupid questions.
Right.
You know, you just ask the question, you learn. That's the whole point of it. You learn, you go forward. We're going to talk about the DC trip we just went to recently. That was amazing. So, yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, so you have how many delegates you think now in Massachusetts with the DC project?
I would have to say we have about 20, but we probably have only like 4 or 5 that are really solid, you know, that are wanting to really dig their heels in and help out.
So what do you do with the DC project? What are some of the things you do? What's the point of this organization?
Yes, so the whole point of this organization, so first off, it's again nonprofit. We volunteer our time for this. It's a nationwide organization of women that safeguard our Second Amendment because we really truly believe that education is the key to safety, not legislation. And the whole point of it is that we meet once a year in DC. We talk to our legislators. We show them what firearm ownership looks like from a woman's perspective, right? So, yes, everybody deserves to have that right to bear arms. But from a woman's perspective, we're smaller in stature, right? We're just built differently than a man. Putting a firearm on someone's hip is kind of like the greatest equalizer, right? There are so many stories that we can tell you where someone has saved their lives because they had a firearm and they never even used it, right? They never even used it. They just had it. And because of that, their family's okay because of that. So, and we're going to go, you know, we're going to have so many different episodes and we have so many different ideas about possibly bringing in somebody that can talk about their story. And talking about their story can be very difficult and very emotional. I don't really have a story like that. And thank God I don't, right? Nobody wants a story like that. But when you hear these stories, it sits here, right? Don't you think it's in your heart, it's in your soul? You cannot erase that. You hear it and you can't forget it. And then it almost like empowers you even more to do what we're doing.
To be the voice for these women.
Yeah, because sometimes they can't.
Oh, it's debilitating. Some of them can't even leave their homes.
No, and we're here to help them. But I think for the community, I don't know about how you feel, but I think doing this show is extremely important to us too because we wanted to be a voice for the community, not just for those that have firearms, but also for those that don't, that may want to get an understanding of, okay, so these two own firearms and she's a nurse and she does this and, oh, wow. You know, it just gives them a different perspective and a place to ask questions safely. So like if you have a question, you can email it to us and we'll answer that. So it's a safe place, right?
Right. We really hope for the communities that are listening and watching that this is a community-driven program. Right. If you have questions, you have topics you want to discuss, please just send right on into Sisters in Arms 2022 at gmail.com and we can answer your questions on the next episode.
Yeah. I think it's awesome.
I think that, you know, and that's what's going to generate the next topic. What did we get for emails? What is the community looking for answers? Because it's hard. There is no, when you get a firearm, there's no manual that comes with it saying, okay, here are the advocacy groups you can join. Here are some really good instructors you should pair up with and further your education. There's just none of that. You're just kind of like walking around like, what do I do now? And you just hope to God that you're in a community of people that love to teach,
Right.
and they believe that education is
Right.
the key to safety.
And sometimes people are so new, they don't even realize that education is so
Right.
important.
They don't know what they don't know.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I just think that that's how we felt. But we, like I said, we were lucky. I mean, we went to a range where we had these amazing men that were there to help us out. We
had
were
a
very
range,
lucky.
right? We had a range that believed that the organization, the Armed Women of America, was an important thing for women.
Yeah.
Not every range would believe in that.
Right.
So we were very lucky.
We were very lucky.
Yep.
But we also realized that, wow, it was me, you, Tony, a couple other women would come, and we created this own little circle that we had, and then we're like, oh, this is really important. We get how can we do this?
Right. Right.
This is like, wow. And then your wheels start turning. You're like, okay, let's do this. What do we do?
Right.
Right. But it was
Right.
awesome. I
Right.
mean, I'm so happy that you're part of that, and we're doing this together. I think this is.
I think it's funny that we traded our essential oil, which is how we met, in for gun oil.
Yep.
It's kind of funny.
It is funny. It is funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. So tell me about your why.
Oh my gosh. Well, when I became a single mom, that was an eye-opener for me. I spent my whole life surrounded by men that most of them, there was always a gun in the house, and I always felt protected. I never, like you said earlier, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
Like I thought that I was protected all the time.
Right.
And I had that feeling of being protected, which is a nice feeling to have. Everybody wants that feeling.
Right.
But sometimes it's not real. You think you're safe.
It's a false.
Right. It's a false sense of security.
Yes.
So I lollygagged through my whole life thinking that, because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And now listening to these women that we are surrounded with,
Gosh.
just going to the grocery store, looking down at your phone, looking for your list of which aisle do I go in first? Do I get the eggs first? Do I get the bread? You're not focused on what's going on around you.
You're tunnel vision.
And it's not just women, it's everybody.
Oh, yeah.
We're all just focused on whatever task at hand is, and we're not looking around at all the mayhem that's going on around us every day. There's crime every day, right in the parking lots that we're parked at, in the hospitals that we visit, in our neighbor's home. Like, it's just everywhere.
Right.
And the more you talk to people that are victims of these crimes, the more you realize you really have to have situational awareness.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because people, I think also, and it comes down to education. People, they get their license to carry. They get, oh, I'm gonna put a gun on my hip. I don't need anything. I don't need education. I don't need this. I don't need that. And then
False sense of security.
False sense of security.
Right.
And then, again, the whole point of us educating each other. First off, it's fun to shoot a gun, right? Don't you just? It's fun. It's a lot of fun. We meet like-minded women and men, and God, I wish I was in this, community a lot earlier. But don't you find that is so important?
It's such a sport.
But when you do tell somebody, okay, well, that's a good idea. You have it on your hip, but do you know what to do with it next? What if this? What if that? And they're like, oh, I never thought of that.
Right.
Okay, so
because
let's
there's
talk
no
about
rule
this.
book that comes with it when you buy it.
Exactly.
Right?
And so it's
Right.
fun having these conversations. Well, yeah, so you had a false sense of security, and
Yep. So became a single mom. My children were 3 and 6.
oh gosh,
And I grew up with guns. My dad was a hunter, avid hunter. All the men in my family were military family. So having guns around was not weird to me. Like, I was very comfortable. But handguns were different,
Oh,
because
yeah.
no one had handguns. They had long guns,
Right.
shotguns, rifles.
Yep.
So, it was really weird. Like, I don't know what to do with this. In Massachusetts, you have to have a special license to have a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my license to carry. I took the class like the law says I have to do in Massachusetts, took a safety class. I was the only woman in the class with probably about 50 men.
So how did you feel? Like,
Well,
how did you feel?
felt like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this.
I think I remember you calling me after
Yes.
you like, oh, this is what just happened. Oh my God,
it
oh my
was
God.
so
I'm
much.
like,
It was crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot. So I got through it, and that was over 10 years ago.
Right.
That was like maybe 12 years ago. Funny thing, those guys that ran the class ended up being the guys at the same range that helped us start the chapter.
Isn't that funny? Yep.
And they remembered me. Of course they did. I was the only female
You're the
in
only
the class,
female.
right? And I remember, you know, they believed in Massachusetts, the class you take, one of them, you don't have to shoot. And they believed it was
home
very
firearm
important.
safety class,
Right.
yep.
And they believed it was very important that you shoot because you're going to go out and buy a gun. And if you've never shot, you're just at a disadvantage. So they wanted to provide that opportunity for all the students.
Don't you also think that itself gives people false sense of security too? Because just because you shot the gun once at this class that is
Right.
required to Massachusetts is not the
Right.
done and be all or whatever
Right.
you want to call it. That
Right.
you need to continue that.
That would be like saying to your child who just got their permit, okay, drive to the end of the driveway and stop. Okay, I can drive. I know how to do it. I drove to the end of the driveway.
I like that
You
analogy.
didn't. You
Yeah.
know how to start the car and get it to and stop and put that. You're done.
You didn't drive
That
on
is
95 yet.
not- Right. Exactly. Drive down 24 North and
Yeah,
see what
exactly.
happens. See if you feel the same.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I use that analogy all the time.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
It's true.
Knowing how to turn the car on and turn it off and take the key out
Doesn't give you
doesn't make you proficient
no.
what
and,
you're doing.
And not to mention, you really don't, you know, the last thing you want to do is use your firearm. It's like the last resort. And then when you went back to, you were talking about situational awareness, and we talk about that a lot to our students because we want to avoid everything possible. Like, would you walk down a dark alley because it's the shortest
Right.
way to your car? And
Right.
you're by yourself, or would you go all the way around where it's all well lit and there's cops walking around to get to your car? What would
Right.
you do?
Right.
Right. So we talk about that too, and I think that's important. So
I think-
you grew up with firearms, long guns, rifles,
Yep.
shotguns, and then
Yep.
you got your license. We got some training from the guys.
Got my license, bought a gun because my male friend in Chicago told me I had to get the specific gun. It was the best gun. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
Oh, it's another
Chuck's
conversation.
amazing. He knows how to shoot. He's great. I'll just do what Chuck tells me to do. So I bought the gun. I didn't even know how to grip it. I remember when the guy at the gun store showed it to me and he's like, here, hold it. And I'm like, I don't want him to know. I don't even know how to hold this gun. Like, this is how bad it is. And not that he cared. He just wanted to sell me a gun, right?
Not to mention, sometimes they don't even know.
Yeah, it was just the whole thing. And I remember thinking, I don't ever want a woman to feel like this.
Right.
I just don't ever want a woman to feel this way. It's really, you're so vulnerable and scared, and you shouldn't feel that way around
No.
a gun. You should be
Right.
confident and educated, and then once you have that education, the confidence comes.
Right.
And then so you can pick anything up because you're treating it the same way, no matter if it's this big or this big.
Right.
So then I met you.
Yeah, but it's funny because we met each other before we even really started getting into guns. It was all essential oils.
Yeah,
And-
well,
and then it kind of
right.
but
We
it was
already
right on
were
that-
into guns, but
right.
we didn't know that each other
Right,
was,
exactly.
right? Because it was the oils
True.
that we had, we had that in common. So you wanted to start a chapter, and I thought, wow, in Massachusetts you want to do this? Okay. So we did it, and I knew it was going to be successful because I knew how I felt, and I knew I wasn't alone.
Right.
And sure enough, here we are 4 years later, and it's just one thing after another. And then you got involved with the DC project and asked me to come along with you, so I became a delegate advocating
Yep.
for
Oh,
our
that's-
rights.
Yeah, you became
here.
a delegate first,
Yep.
and then
And then it just keeps going.
Oh my God.
And then Rhode Island needed one.
Yep.
And my fiance, I've been driving back and forth to Rhode Island for almost 10 years now. So
you
it
live
just,
half there, half
yeah,
here.
so
you
I
know.
said, well, if Rhode Island needs help, I need to help them because I'm going to probably end up there anyway. So now I'm the director for Rhode Island.
And it's amazing because we went to DC for the very first time. I've never been to DC. You've never been to DC. This
Right.
was our first trip with the DC project.
Yeah.
And
With all the other directors.
how did you
Yeah.
feel?
Empowered, completely
Yeah.
empowered. I knew I wasn't alone. I didn't feel vulnerable. I got solid education from women that knew what they were doing.
Right.
And that's the thing. If you can partner up with people that know what they're doing, it
Right.
makes the journey so much easier.
It truly, truly does. And I think, I agree. I think when we went to DC, I felt so empowered and so fortunate and so lucky to have found what we have found. Like, I just feel fortunate. I feel so fortunate. I'm like, oh my God, here we are, leaders of Armed Women of America.
Right.
I'm humbled by the fact that we're part of that. And then now we're part of the DC project. And I think they both combine together. They marry each other so well. We work awesome together. And the DC project, going to DC was amazing.
Absolutely.
I think the one thing too that really stuck with me is actually seeing the Declaration of Independence in person.
Mm-hmm.
I was like a big crybear baby the whole time. I was very emotional because when you walked into that, room, it's dim. It's not like well lit like this. It's quiet. There's a sense of respect. You go through the line and you see this in front of you and you say, this is why we're here. This is what we're fighting for, and that I think stuck with me.
Yeah.
I don't know, what stuck with you the most?
The Vietnam Wall.
Oh, yes.
Just to run your hand along this wall that never ends and how tall it is and all the names. You just have to have nothing but respect for
That's
that.
awesome.
And our next episode, we'll have John Green on from Gun Owners Action League. He is all about education, all about advocacy.
Right.
So it mirrors what they do,
Yeah.
what Gold does, the DC project.
Right.
It's so great.
I think it really truly is amazing. And I am so happy that we're starting this show. I think it's going to be so important for so many others and so many people in the community to be able to have a safe place to ask questions.
Yep, absolutely. If there is anyone out there, man or woman, this is not just a female-oriented show.
Right.
We just have a lot of female expertise when it comes to students.
Yeah.
Most of my students are females, but they're males. I have male students also.
Yeah, we definitely, when we do our classes together, it's really a mix. A good chunk of women, but it's mixed up.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? It's a lot of husband and wives, boyfriend and girlfriend, so that is awesome. But so this is our first episode. We have so many more episodes that we're going to be doing and so many important topics. So
But we are out of time today.
we are out of time today, so we want to thank you very, very, very much for tuning in. This is awesome.
Yep, and we hope you join us again for our next episode. We'll have John Green from Gun Owners Action League.
Yep. So
Have
have
a
a
great
good day and stay safe.